So we're going to continue looking at barriers, but this time we're going to focus on the chemical barriers. We mentioned one of them above, and that is hydrochloric acid, which is found in the stomach. So hydrochloric acid, which I can write as HCl, is found in the stomach. Okay, and hydrochloric acid is very acidic and it will kill I'm going to write many pathogens, okay? It does kill a lot of them. It doesn't kill all of them, okay? There are some pathogens that are specially adapted to survive in this really low pH or this really acidic environment. So it's not going to kill every pathogen, but it will kill a lot of them, okay? And this is found in your stomach, okay? Remember, when obviously you are breathing in through your mouth, you're breathing in through your nose, the mucus in your mouth and in your throat can be swept down to your stomach. So all of the pathogens getting trapped from your mouth or your nose can end up in your stomach. And then also any contaminated food that you may eat or water that you may drink, and that food and water is going to end up in your stomach, and so too will any pathogens that were in it. So having this acid in your stomach is a really, really important defense, as your mouth and into your digestive system is one of the main openings into your body, okay? And this counts as a chemical barrier because it's an actual chemical reaction of the acid acting on the pathogen to destroy it, okay? And the pathogen is destroyed, whereas your physical barriers were just stopping the pathogen getting into your body. This chemical barrier is actually destroying your pathogen. There's a chemical reaction, and so I call it a chemical barrier. The other chemical barrier that we need to know is called lysozyme. And lysozyme is an enzyme. Okay, and we've learned about enzymes before, okay? They speed up chemical reactions in the body. There's lots of them involved in the digestive system to speed up the chemical reactions that break down your food. And this is another example. This is an enzyme that will act as a chemical defense, and it destroys bacteria. So I'm not going to write destroys all pathogen because lysozyme is quite specific to bacteria, okay? And there's a chemical reaction and lysozyme destroys bacteria, okay? What it does is it breaks down the cell wall of some bacteria. So I'm going to write breaks down the cell wall of some bacteria, okay? Not all bacteria. Remember, there's tons and tons of different types of bacteria, but it will break down the cell wall of some bacteria, and this destroys the bacteria. So again, as we saw with HCl above, this chemical defense is actually destroying the pathogen. It's not just stopping and entering, it's actually destroying it. And it does this by breaking down the cell wall of some bacteria, and this destroys the bacteria. Now, where exactly do you find lysozyme? So it's an enzyme, and you find lysozyme in lots of different places, okay? You find lysozyme in your tears, okay? We haven't mentioned your eyes yet, okay, but they are another part of your body that are not covered in skin, okay? And again, it's important that they're not covered in skin. Light needs to enter your eyes so you can see. If your eyes were fully covered in skin, then you wouldn't be able to see, okay? But because they're not covered in skin, they're vulnerable. Because they're vulnerable, you've got this enzyme found in tears, and it will kill any bacteria that get into your eye. Okay, and that's not saying it's impossible to get an eye infection, but the lysozyme in your tears will protect your eyes. Okay, so that is very, very useful. You also find lysozyme in other places, such as your saliva, okay? Again, we've already spoken about the mouth. If you're putting food in your mouth, it's one of the openings. Having lysozyme in your saliva is an effective way of killing any bacteria on the food that you're eating, or any of the bacteria or any of the pathogens, in the air that you inhale. Okay, so you're finding it in tears, you're finding it in saliva. You also find it in the mucus that you find in your nose and throat. So the mucus itself just acts as a kind of a physical barrier, but within the mucus you have some lysozyme, which is an enzyme and will initiate a chemical reaction. Okay, so this lysozyme, this enzyme, is your other example of a chemical barrier. So hydrochloric acid and lysozyme are your examples of chemical barriers, and they're actually destroying the pathogens. They're not just stopping them from entering. We are going to do a couple of questions now. I've got some exam questions that I'm going to get you to do, and then just one or two kind of questions at the end that I made up. So some of the exam questions are specifically what we've just done today, while others go back to previous lessons. But they are, I think, fairly straightforward. There's a couple of them that are just tick boxes, so I think they should be all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on the screen for you, and what I want you to do is have a go at answering them by yourself and then press play when you're ready to go through the answer. Okay, so don't just copy down all of my answers. Do have a go by yourself first. Okay, so the first two questions here are just tick box. Pause the video, read the questions, do the questions, and press play when you're ready to see the answer. Okay, so you should have ticked A for the first one. Cholera is a bacterial disease. You get it from drinking contaminated water, and it affects your digestive system and causes severe diarrhea. Cholera ash dieback is caused by a fungus. Okay, that's the type of pathogen that causes the disease. So give yourself a mark if you got both of those right. The next one, you need to connect up answers. So I won't do that one yet. Connect up answers. So just drawing one line from each. So one line from tuberculosis, one line from malaria. And then underneath, chlamydia is a communicable disease. Give one way to prevent the spread. We are going to be looking at chlamydia in more detail. It's a sexually transmitted infection. So just tell me how you can prevent the spread of a sexually transmitted infection. Press pause, answer them, and then press play when you're ready to move on. Okay, so the answer is tuberculosis is caused by a bacteria, and that bacteria spreads through the air. So you should have just one line. Malaria is caused by a protist, and that protist is spread by a mosquito. So an animal vector. A vector, remember, is an organism that can spread a pathogen. The animal vector in this case would be a mosquito. Okay, so they'll be your 2 marks. Chlamydia is a communicable disease. How can you stop the spread? There's 2 things you can say. Because it's a sexually transmitted disease, if you were having sex, you should use contraception, okay, so condoms to prevent the spread. Or the other thing you can say is just don't have sex, okay? If you're going to catch this disease through having sex, by not having sex, you are not going to catch it. So either answer will get you the mark. In question 3, just do 3A for me now. You're just ticking boxes. This is based on what we did today. You just need to look at the 3 options and tell me if it's a physical barrier or a chemical barrier. The first one is done for you. So you just need 1 tick for each to tell me whether it's physical or chemical. Actually, have a look at the question underneath as well, because you can see it. Describe how cilia and mucus in the trachea, and the trachea is your throat, help to defend the body against the entry of pathogens. So have a go at both of those now. Okay, so for the top one, for lysozyme, I've ticked that it's a chemical defense because there's a chemical reaction between the enzyme and the bacteria, and the skin is just a physical barrier. For the next one, it wants to know how cilia and mucus in the trachea. So the trachea is another word for your windpipe, and it leads down into your lungs. So how do they defend the body against the entry of pathogens? So you need to specify the mucus traps the pathogens. And once, because the mucus is the sticky substance, it traps all the pathogens. And once the pathogens are trapped, then you've got the cilia, which can sweep the mucus to the back of the throat, and then they are swallowed into the digestive system. So if you've got lots of mucus in your actual throat, you'll know this if you ever had a kind of chesty cough. You've got the cilia that can kind of sweep the mucus in your throat, which will make you kind of cough it up, and then it sits in your mouth, and then you can swallow it. I know it's kind of grim, but you can swallow it then down into your digestive system, and there it's going to be acted on by the hydrochloric acid in your stomach. The other thing you can do, if it sweeps it up the top of your throat, you can then cough it out. So either way, it's either going from your throat to your digestive system, where it'll be destroyed by hydrochloric acid, or you're coughing it properly out of your body. But what you don't want is to get it into your lungs. So the cilia will sweep that mucus up the trachea so that it's not going to fall down into your lungs. You'll either cough it out or you'll cough it up to the back of your throat and then swallow it. The next one, the next one is, I've got another matchy up one, and then I've got 2 questions at the end that are a little bit longer. So have a go at these 3 questions now, and then I'll go through the answers with you. Okay, so if you look at the answers, you should have matched fungus up to cholera dieback, and then virus will be AIDS. Malaria is caused by a protist, tuberculosis is caused by bacteria, and cholera is caused by a bacteria. So none of those answers are correct. Okay, the next one, sorry, this is a bit small. State and explain how one natural physical, I should say, barrier and one natural chemical barrier stop pathogens from entering the body. So when you're asked to state and explain, the first thing you should do is state your physical barrier. So I said skin is a physical barrier, that's 1 mark, and then explain how it stops pathogen entering. Skin is a physical barrier, and all I need to do to explain is just state that it covers almost the whole body, and because it covers the body, that's enough to stop the pathogens entering. So that's all you need to say for skin. As another physical barrier, you could have said mucus, and you could say that it traps pathogens, you could say ciliated cells, and you could say that it sweeps the mucus with the pathogens out of the body or into the digestive system. My chemical barrier, I've chosen hydrochloric acid found in the stomach, and I've said that it's a chemical defense because it destroys the pathogens, okay? So anything that's actually destroying pathogens is going to count as chemical. In the next question, I told you that millions of pathogens enter the nose and mouth every day. Describe the barriers that the body has to prevent these pathogens causing disease. Now, obviously, this is quite a long answer. I'm just going to go through what's really important. So I have said the nose, because you're asked about the nose and the mouth, so it's important that you talk about both the nose and the mouth. And I've started with the nose, and I've said that the nose has nose hairs, and I've also said it has mucus. So I've given the kind of the defenses that it has, the nose hairs and the mucus, and then I've said what that does. That traps pathogens, okay? And then the mucus with the pathogens will then leave the body when you blow your nose. So you're trapping all those pathogens in your nose because they're getting stuck in the mucus and the nose hairs. Then you blow your nose and out come the pathogens, okay? The other option you've got is you've also got ciliated cells in your nose. And what they will do is they'll sweep the mucus to the back of the throat. Remember, your nose will join up with your throat. And they'll sweep the mucus to the back of the throat. And there it can enter your digestive system. And when it enters your digestive system, it's going to be destroyed by the hydrochloric acid in your stomach. When I'm talking about the mouth, I've got an extra one that I can say for mouth. I can say you've got lysozyme in your saliva. And I've mentioned here that lysozyme is an enzyme, and it's an enzyme that can destroy bacteria. Okay, then I've also said what I've said for nose. I've said that the throat contains mucus and ciliated cells. Again, they trap pathogens and they stop them entering the lungs. They do that because the cilia sweep. They sweep the mucus and the pathogens back up your throat, and they can then enter your digestive system again, where they're going to be destroyed by HCl. Okay, so I've mentioned a couple of different things there. I've mentioned lysozyme, I've mentioned hydrochloric acid, I've mentioned nose hairs, cilia, mucus. So I've mentioned lots of different defenses, and for each one I've explained how it is that they work. Okay, so that's the sort of thing you would need to say for a question like that. Everything that we've looked at today, all of the defenses, they have all been non-specific. By that, I mean they don't care what pathogen is trying to enter your body. They're going to deal with it in exactly the same way. So it doesn't matter what type of pathogen is entering your body. The nose hairs and the mucus in your nose are just going to try and stop them. They don't discriminate on different types of pathogens. That's not to say that they're as effective on every type of pathogen, but they can't tell the difference. They just do the same thing no matter what pathogen is trying to enter the body. In the next lesson, we're going to look at specific responses, how your body will respond to a specific bacteria or a specific virus. And that's going to be your specific immune response. We're going to look at the immune system, but everything we've looked at today, and I will mention this again in the next lesson, everything we've looked at today will count as non-specific because the defense or the action is going to be the same no matter what the pathogen that's trying to enter your body is. Okay, so next lesson we will look at the immune system.